and more power to you all. And Professor Vishwanathan presented a very different perspective, which is very, very enlightening. But to add to what Dhananjayan said and just Mr. Suleiman and Lohita just said, who are the pirates that we are really seeking to go after? We need to look at who are these people, the pirates. Just as we speak here, about 10 days ago in Poland, we all would be aware that, kick-ass students, Artem Wallin was arrested, and the police found that his last year's revenue was 20.41 million euros. And last year, we arrested somebody in Jabalpur who's working for IBM, who's drawing 2.5 lakh salary. He's running 65 pirated websites and with network all over India and across the world. So these are the people that we are talking about. We are not really going after small time, underprivileged sections or deprived people. We're not really talking about them. And somebody who's engaged in piracy through signal theft, Ritesh Khosla would know. Chitram TV, this guy is operating from Germany. So they're all well-cushioned people. These are criminal syndicates that we are really seeking to go after. Not really, small-time people. And back in 2006, when we actually started the anti-video piracy cell in Telugu Film Chamber of Commerce, we engaged 65 ex-police officers. In the next 5 years, they actually booked 5,000 cases against all small-time vendors. But we discontinued that practice in 2010. We said actually we just want to go after source pirates and the criminal syndicates, and we are not really interested in harassing small-time vendors who are actually seeking livelihoods. That's my 2 cents, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, very quickly, a couple of rejoinders to Professor Vishwanathan. I think you missed my point about Iran. The point I made is that because Iran is not a member of the WTO or the Berne Convention, Iranian filmmakers do not have any recourse when their works are pirated or advised Mr. Ray to sue for copyright infringement. Now let's suppose that they translate into a lawsuit. Satyajit Ray could sue as a matter of right, which Iranian filmmakers cannot do because they are not a part of that system. And while there is a lot of literature supporting a free culture, there is also literature by people like Madhavi Sundar who support what is called a fair culture, looking at developing countries. Also, the point you made about supporting the informal economy, sure, there is a whole literature which is very supportive of piracy, champions piracy. One of the most well-known people is being Lawrence Liang of the Alternative Law Forum, who I've cited extensively in my paper, and Lawrence was kind enough to give me his comments on it. But I think the fundamental, of course, Lawrence and I, we're not likely to be on the same page because I see myself as a sort of legal formalist, whether he's contentious of the law. But one weakness I find with Lawrence's argument is that he says that when I use the argument about small filmmakers needing to recoup their costs, he points to dogme cinema like Lars von Trier or films like Tarnation, and he says it supports handheld cinema. Now, I think the world would be a very boring place if all we had was low-cost handheld cinema where people don't need to recoup costs. Sure, we'd love state funding of the arts, we'd love the NFDC to fund more, but let's not kid ourselves, it's not going to happen.
I know many of you want to speak, but I would like to exercise my discretion here as chair. The first session of this roundtable is ended. I would like to invite all of you to join us for lunch in the ground floor, T3 academic block. There are gifts which are there. I think they can be given at the dining place. I would like to invite you back at 1:15 for the second session on enforcement and scope for reforms, the law and beyond. Thank you very much for participating in this discussion. Yeah, there is also, by the way, just after lunch, there is a campus tour for all of you, which will all be, we'll have a quick lunch and then a campus tour, and then followed by, we return back at 1:15 for the next session. Thank you very much.
I have to make my comment also.
Yes. Student is from very different they have this habit of not being in one place. He's like almost an orphan, but mother's elder sister took care of his boy. He's been an all-rounder. So we want to appreciate him because the principal recommended this boy. But when Sarah came on stage and we gave him 8,000 rupees, appreciating him being an all-rounder in a place called Velour. This boy was very good in studies, debate, sport, whatever. And when he came up on stage, he said, I have the 8,000 louder. Speak louder. I don't feel when I do that. So I'm not getting that try. I'm not pushing myself. I would say. I'm surprised the way Raj has picked up Hindi after college, not in school, not in college, but after coming to Delhi. Yeah.
But it does help if you have a Punjabi wife which you have, so I think it's important.
mic.
Hi, sir. My name is Surya. I am from Odisha. I have two questions. The first is, out of all the movies that you've done, which is the best one for you? Which do you like most? And second one, like, it's with respect to privacy. Like, I know there are a lot of efforts made by all industries across India to, like, abolish this thing. But the thing is, there's no real push. I mean,
take them to the shooting spots. I take them there. They're with me in the caravan. And my wife, being an actor, she knows what happens. So you have to build that trust on them, and you also have your own response for kind of roles you play, kind of things you talk in the film, and how you behave in the film. So I want my kids to watch my films. My daughter is 8 years old, my son is 4. So I encourage them to come to theater, watch them, and me, come to the shooting spot.
photograph. That's better. Well, let's have a group photograph. All right. Let's come behind. Let's stand here. Guys, why don't you take this? Put this down. Ganesh, remove karo. Stand here. इसको remove karo.
Watch out.
Let's have all of as many people come together.
Stage might I can see it going in.
Please give way. Please give way.
Approving what we are doing there and having movies dubbed and telecasted in televisions here and giving us even more larger audience and larger platform. I'm supposed to do a Hindi film, like maybe next year I should be a part of this industry again. I've done one film earlier with Mr. Ram Gopal Verma. I'm hoping to join back again maybe sometime next year. My only limitation will be talking the language and promoting in that language. Maybe that's why I'm restricting myself from doing regular Hindi films, but I'm looking forward to do one.
First time I'm interviewing you, I want to know who is your favorite star in Bollywood? Actress and actor, both.
Always been a follower of Mr. Amir Khan's work, so a lot of respect for what he's created, what he's done, and as a person, we interacted a lot of occasions, so a lot of respect for Mr. Amir Khan, I would say. And I also, of course, like any fan fond of Mr. Salman Khan, his star power and the way he comes on screen and the kind of films he's been recently doing also in awe of his body of work. Mr. Akshay Kumar also the same. He's able to give 4-5 films in a year. He's able to finish a film in 60 days, which we are still finding out how he's capable of finishing a film in 60 days. Yeah.
Thanks for talking to us. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you, your fans they'll see you in Hindi film industry soon. Thank you so much.
Our session really focused on the scope and impact on piracy, its negative implications, or if you believe Shiv Vishwanathan, its positive implications. But this session is going to be a little more technical because we're going to discuss the legal aspects, enforcement, and reforms. In my opening remarks, I'll just quickly gloss over. So I was telling you about my research project in the first half. Part 2 of my project dealt with enforcement. I interviewed a lot of people, including people in this room, and there was some dissatisfaction with criminal enforcement. We also saw that mentioned in the last session. Shweta Sri, for example, was one of the people I interviewed, pointed out issues that they face. Maybe she'll discuss that in her presentation. But there was largely satisfaction with the civil route, and it was thought that courts really can't do any more than block websites. But even then, with website blocking orders, it's hard to prevent piracy because of its cross-border dimensions. For example, during my research, I found out that the film Queen, starring Kangana Ranaut, there were pirated copies of the film being sold, and it was traced back to Latvia. And a complaint had to be filed with the police in Latvia to stop that. So obviously there are certain things that our courts and governments just cannot do. But there were some suggestions made on new laws. Once again, you have a CD with lots of documents. There is a report of the Committee on Piracy on that CD, and also a draft bill that was introduced by Jaya Bachchan in Parliament, which lapsed. But I just want to briefly gloss over the recommendations of the Committee on Piracy, which was a committee set up by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting a few years ago, and by the National IP think tank. Now, the Committee on Piracy made, I think, 3 sort of striking suggestions with respect to new laws, if you believe that the solution to prevent piracy is to have more laws. One solution that they proposed was camcording laws, where the onus is on theatres to stop the camcording, and that should be made a condition of a license granted by district authorities. So you can operate a theatre only if you promise us that you're going to take steps to prevent camcording, maybe monitor it. The second recommendation that the committee made was to have more preventive detention laws in the different states, like the Gunda Acts. And you have copies of the different Gunda Acts in the CD. And the third recommendation the committee made was to have graduated response laws. Now, for the uninitiated, the term graduated response means a system where if you are an internet user and you download pirated content, you are sent a warning. If you do it again, you are sent another warning. And different countries do different things when the third breach happens. Some countries have laws disconnecting you, and they've been upheld by courts. Some countries just keep on giving warnings. And the Committee on Piracy recommended that there should be 2 warnings followed by, I quote, disruption for a few hours. So maybe they'll reduce your internet speed for a few hours. Now, in my paper, there are a lot of controversies regarding these laws. There's a lot of opposition. If you read blogs like Spicy IP, they criticize those laws. Now, the position I take in my paper is that, from my limited understanding of holistic macro level way, and with respect to piracy, it made a number of suggestions. I'll mention a few of them. It mentioned the importance of public awareness, which is something that speakers in the first session also agreed on. And it spoke about establishing a centralized task force, a multi-agency task force. One interesting suggestion was creating a nationwide database of known IP offenders. So if somebody says, I'm not really a pirate, they can actually cross-check and find out with the database. And also closer cooperation between state governments, and training in police and judicial academies, and also, which is something I touched upon in the first session, addressing the issue of Indian works and products being pirated and counterfeited abroad. Surya is, of course, a well-known actor, but his films are being pirated in other countries which have large populations, which have a large Tamil population. So how do we stop that from happening? So we have, of course, Mr. Sabharwal to discuss that in detail. So just to introduce the speakers very briefly, since Mr. KTS Tulsi is not here, we have Mr. Narendra Sabharwal, who the Vice Chancellor introduced in the first session. He's one of the leading voices on IP policy in India. Dr. Ashwini Kumar was also introduced in the first session. He's a former director of the CBI, former governor of Nagaland, but we are proud to say that he was also a teacher, a professor at Jindal. Mr. Ritesh Khosla is the Senior Vice President of Sony Pictures, which has filed many orders and filed many cases, and we'd be interested to know his perspective. Shweta Sri Majumdar, well, I don't know whether I should introduce her as a young lawyer or a senior lawyer, but I will say that she looks young, but she is actually one of India's leading IP litigators. She was a partner at Anand & Anand, one of the top IP firms, one of the youngest partners, I believe, and she was also the first Indian to be on the board of directors of the International Trademark Association. Mr. Rajkumar is somebody I interviewed on my paper. He has some fascinating stories and anecdotes about piracy. That's all I'll say. And he's been instrumental in the setting up of the TIPCU TIPCU, which is modeled on a body that was set up in the UK by the London Police. And that's a very interesting model of law enforcement, because we as lawyers don't think beyond statutes and case law. And finally, we have Mr. Laveen Hirani, who is the legal head of Red Chillies Entertainment. Mr. Hirani Mr. Hirani did an LLM in intellectual property law in the UK, and he worked in a boutique IP firm before his present job. Red Chillies is, of course, the company that Shah Rukh Khan is associated with. And I'm sorry I missed out Mr. Bharat Kapoor, who is the CEO of Strategic IP Information, which is a well-known company that monitors online infringement. He was with Ernst & Young previously and was extensively involved in piracy, anti-piracy work. As I said, his company monitors IP online. So if ever you go to YouTube and you see a video has been taken off because of copyright violations, and Bharat is either the one to blame or the one to thank, I suppose. So we'll start the session now. As I said, because we're running a little late, I would request the speakers to stick to the 10-minute time limit. We'll have discussions at the end. The Vice Chancellor used the bell only once in the last session, so there is a precedent for me for using the bell, but I hope I won't have to do that. So without further ado, let's start with Mr. Sabharwal, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vice Chancellor, Mr. Surya, Chair of this session, and my fellow panelists, very good afternoon. I will speak a little bit about the national IP policy and how it intertwines the enforcement and adjudication aspect, particularly with reference to its relevance to online piracy. Now, the policy which has been announced, if I may say, a policy tool. I don't think we have ever regarded intellectual property in that light. But with this policy, which is, to my mind, a 360 degrees coverage policy with 7 pillars which are horizontal and which intertwines all the stakeholders horizontally, I think it is a path-breaking policy. It also focuses on the strengths of India, in as much as that it gives us a slogan of innovative India, creative India, thereby drawing attention to the knowledge economy that India has already gone into, and where India has a lot of miles to cover still. But that will come through intellectual property protection, not infringing others, not letting others infringe your intellectual property rights, and through proper administrative, legislative, and enforcement mechanism. That is the vision in the policy. Now, as far as the 7 pillars are concerned, I call them pillars. They have not been called as pillars in the policy, but 7 pillars are concerned. They are interesting because after a lot of debate, and I was a part of that debate at that time, and we had the clear option of dealing with copyright, trademarks, patents, geographical indications, trade secrets, in silos. Or we were tempted to look at the alternative, which was, let's look at the enforcement of all. Let's look at human development across. Let us look at administration. And we then decided that that would be a better model, because then we will be able to go to the roots of each pillar, horizontally and vertically. At the same time, we can do justice to what is specific to patents, what is specific to copyright. Now, as far as administration is concerned, and I would like to point this out specifically, for the first time, Copyright Act and its administration has been shifted to the Industry and Commerce Ministry. Now, this is something which the industry very much wanted. There was an overwhelming demand from the industry to shift copyright to the Industry and Commerce Ministry. To me, frankly, it came as a surprise, because I've been dealing with intellectual property for over 30 years now. And my earliest recollection was always interacting with the copyright, with the MHRD in Government of India. And if you would recall, India joined the Berne Convention in 1928. Much before many things had happened, and the Human Resource Ministry at that time, Education Ministry, was at the core of it. So what I would like to say, it is very good that the industry's demand and the stakeholders' demand has been fulfilled, but now the DIPP has to deliver. The industry and the Commerce Ministry must have a different feel and a different ethos when it comes to dealing with creators, when it comes to creating with authors, when it comes to creating with performers. And they will certainly have a feel for all the areas of industrial property. But having got copyright, I think this attitudinal change, this change in mindset is extremely important. And that's what I had commended this to the industry department. Now, as to the objectives, I will take the cluster of objective 1, which is awareness building, objective 2, which is generation of IP, and objective 5, which is commercialization in a kind of a cluster. Now, the main thing there is awareness building. The more awareness we build about the importance of intellectual property, how it can be a policy tool, how it can catalyze the knowledge economy, and how we can prevent infringement of it, whether it takes the form of counterfeiting or piracy, then we will be really moving into creativity and innovation ecosystem. Now, that ecosystem is much broader, but intellectual property rights system is a rule-based and market-based system, and it has a very definite place in that system. There is a suggestion which I would commend you to kindly consider, that we must have a sector-wise baseline survey. Now, not many people have understood the importance of it. The baseline survey is an IP audit. The IP audit means that we take important areas of economy in India. Let us take pharmaceuticals, let us take creative industries, let us take agriculture, let us take science and technology, I mean across the board. And then we see where we are, how we can utilize intellectual property in that particular area, and in 3 years' time, what would be our achievement. Now, that's the kind of baseline survey, which is a result-based baseline survey, and which is result-oriented. And this is something which is a very important, shall I say, best practice in the world, and this is what we have recommended. We have also recommended that we should have economic contribution studies in these sectors. Many of you would know that the copyright-based industries of which we are talking about here today, on an average, contribute from 4% to 10% of the GDP. 4% to 10% of the GDP. At the highest range is USA, which is about 11%. But many countries are in the range of 4 to 6. Supposing we were to do a study like this, and I've been advocating it for a long time, I'm sure we will come out somewhere in the middle, because we have a long way to cover. But I think if the film industry and entertainment industry have come out with something like 0.5% to 1% contribution to GDP, I think if we take every sector together, we would certainly come out very healthy. So that's another recommendation which has been made. And on commercialization, whether it is funding, whether it is guaranteeing the startups, whether there is securitization of IP, whether it is valuation methodologies as far as IP is concerned, I think all these are tools to make our products of imagination into economic assets. And that is what is the ultimate aim, the rationale of the policy, that we must convert intangible assets into intellectual property assets and make them economic assets. So that's a very important thing, and I think it has been suggested that we should have an IP exchange, which is also very important. Coming to the legal and legislative side, where I would like to spend 1 minute, there is a mention that our laws should not remain static, that they should be dynamic. We should review all the laws as a need arises, and if there is a need for amendment, we should make the amendment. If there is any inconsistency or non-conformity, we should be able to do that. We should also, as far as this session is concerned, there is a definite recommendation. The Cinematography Act should be amended. The camcording should be taken care of. And we should also look at joining some of the treaties where we have not yet joined. And I draw your attention to WCT, the WIPO Copyright Treaty, the WPPT, and the Beijing Treaty. These three treaties, which are kind of in a bunch called the Internet Treaties, they deal with curbing the piracy, and we have not yet joined, so it's possible that India will in the future join these treaties also. There is also talk of what we can do in the interface between IP law and competition law, and that's very important because this interface comes because if there is any abuse of IP laws, the competition law kicks in and brings in the kind of balance that is needed. On the enforcement side, a lot has been said. On the adjudication, we have said commercial court should be there, but the commercial courts kind of at the same time commercial courts were established. Case law, ADR, the alternative dispute resolution mechanism, and strengthening of the judiciary mechanism as such, training, colloquia, and things like that. On the enforcement side, a lot of emphasis on technological upgradation of the cognitive powers of the custom officials, of the police officials, the toolkits for them, SOP, the standard operating procedure for them, and so many of those things. So I think that's very important. When our films are pirated outside, I think that is also been focused, that we should take it up with the countries, that not only we are pirates, but 400 sites in USA is quite a big number, and that is what the Commerce Ministry had given to the US side some time back. So we have to create a level playing field in so far as that is concerned. And finally, then there is this whole area of human capital, and that is something which is at the crux of the policy, that we should have experts, we should have teachers, trainers, enforcers, judges, and all that. So I would commend that we go into the nitty-gritty of this policy to see how we can glean things which are relevant for our own sectors, and for example, in the area of piracy, we can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your talk, Mr. Sabharwal. I was actually struggling to ring the bell. Maybe the bell didn't want me to stop. But since we have time for discussion at the end, we'd love to hear more on the points you sort of had to rush through. Our next speaker is Dr. Ashwini Kumar, who's had years and years of experience in the police, and we'd love to hear his perspectives on the challenges faced by law enforcement authorities.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, sir. Good evening, Vice Chancellor. I'd like to just come straight to the topic. I have 10 minutes, so I'll make 5 points, 2 minutes per point. First of all, we are talking of piracy. As per the dictionary, the practice of attacking and robbing ships at sea, similar practice in other contexts, especially hijacking, unauthorized use or reproduction of author's work, software piracy is the meaning as per the dictionary. Criminal act, because I have been told to speak on piracy and criminal act. A person who has committed a crime, and a crime is a deplorable and shocking act. Please remember these 4 words. Historically and legally speaking, copyright infringement has been considered an offense right from 14th century. 1557, the Royal Charter was issued to a company called Stationers' Company of London. And the Royal Charter said 2 things. It will have monopoly of publication. Number 2, it will also have the right to enforce the act, enforce the charter. Today, copyright is recognized, infringement is recognized all over the world as a crime in almost, I think, all jurisdictions. However, the interpretation of legal terms, definitions, and procedures is entirely different. So the solution recommended by different jurisdictions is different. Copyright holders frequently refer to copyright infringement as piracy or theft. But the point to be noted is that there is no violence organized or used for piracy. Number two, the property is not taken away from the copyright holder. It remains with the copyright holder. Then, thirdly, the copyright criminal is only violating some authorization or licensing or understanding. The courts in many countries have distinguished between copyright infringement, theft, and piracy. For example, USA Supreme Court in 1985 said interference with copyright does not easily equate with theft, misappropriation, or fraud. The piracy, similarly, downloading of copyright protected material for personal and non-commercial use is not an offense in many European countries, Canada, Poland, Netherlands, and Spain. Piracy involves attacking, use of violence, arms, ammunition. Copyright cannot be equated with that. The first challenge before legal and enforcement agencies is to categorize this offense. Is it a civil offense, criminal offense, property offense, body offense, economic offense, commercial offense? We have had a discussion. It generates a lot of underground economy, black money, and many other terrorism. The money goes to terrorism. Who's the complainant? The complainant are great actors, big financiers, producers, houses, and of course workers. But who are the accused in this? Accused could be anybody between a child or a student of 8 to 80 years. Many of the accused are highly respected, and they run charitable and non-profit organizations. And moreover, the other accused could be highly organized criminals, mafia, and syndicates. Now, here it was said in the forenoon that the law is only targeting the commercial side, not the individuals. My dear friends, no, the law is targeting both. We have to be very clear who is the focus. The second challenge is how to enforce these acts. The police always looks at the modus operandi of the criminal and how these acts are committed. First, it was when the printing came, it was the printing press which just duplicated your copyrights. Then books, newspapers, pamphlets, then came the radio. And now we have television, internet, www, and social media, handheld devices, electronic gadgets, and communication networks, including televisions. In fact, every home, every computer, every handheld device can be a device to duplicate. The speed, reproduction, and distribution is tremendously high. And what are the laws? They are of 1872. The Indian Evidence Act, drafted by Lord Macaulay, still governs that physical, oral evidence, documentation has to be presented to prove a point. Now let us examine the agency which is to implement these laws. It is the police station. It is the police officer who's sub-inspector. Maybe he's a matriculate person, and he's supposed to implement intellectual property rights. I'm not saying that he doesn't claim to be an intellectual, but probably he's training, and does he have the capacity? And we are talking of 13,000, 18,000 crores. And how many sub-inspectors of police are there? How many police stations have the time? You agree that implementing copyright and preventing piracy is entirely different from policing and patrolling the streets. Now, have we failed in sort of laying down an enforcement agency for this? Now I come to the most important part of this discussion, which is listed as law and beyond. Let us admit that our systems have failed. Only then we can think of a new system. If we say, no, a policeman should be more empowered and he should be better trained, and then only we can. Piracy trade and publishing trade and filmmaking go hand in hand. The moment a film is produced, pirates have already done it. So it's a competition. Both are trades. Piracy trade and publication trade, they are going hand in hand. technology has enabled piracy. So I think that solution also lies in technology. We are trying to find a solution elsewhere. Where is the main culprit, or some may say the main person to propagate these authors' works is technology. So I think only technological solution, they have been referred to as digital lock, PDP, and so many other things. Then empowerment of the copyright holder. Please go to 14th century. The person or the company was empowered to only monopolize and publish, and it was also empowered to enforce. Whereas we are looking for some enforcement agency outside the system who is supposed to have all the knowledge and all the technical wherewithal and all the expertise, and also should be very committed and motivated to implement these sort of laws. I think we need to examine that not only awareness, but also empowerment and accountability. We had two problems. The Vice Chancellor will bear me out of ragging students. Ultimately, the power was given to the head of the institution to stop ragging. And I think we see some better sort of implementation. Then harassment of women in workplace. Now the accountability has been fixed on the head of the organization. And in the morning session, Mr. Baker referred to honesty and all. It is the schools, colleges, universities, government organizations who are also doing piracy. Can we not empower the head of the institution not only to ensure that no piracy takes place in his institution, but also to impose some restrictions? Let us not think of anything outside the whole system. And we had the example from Australia, where they give a message that you have pirated. I'm sure it is not the police agency. It must be some organization like the Film Corporation or the Film Motion Pictures, Fox, or whatever you have. Therefore, I feel these agencies have to be empowered, and we have to think of, as he has already suggested, it has been transferred from police to industry and commerce. I think it's basically an economic offense with huge commercial angle. So we have to look at it that way, and rather than try to look at it from the old paradigm of some theft having taken place. It's an intangible thing. There's no object stolen. So therefore, I feel that what Mr. Sabharwal has said is the right direction. However, the solution has to be completely taken out from the law courts. These organizations, if they put up a case in the court of law, my dear gentlemen, 3 crore cases are pending. The Chief Justice of India, he had to shed some tears to ensure that 3 crore cases are removed. 3 crore is only a figure. Mind you, the cases are 10 to 20 years old. So are we thinking of finding a solution in the courts, in the police stations, for this kind of a thing which is highly technical and involves such huge funds? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kumar. We appreciate you sticking to the time limit. Mr. Tulsi has just joined you. Welcome, sir. We will give Mr. Tulsi some breathing time. So the next speaker will be Mr. Ritesh Khosla, Senior Vice President, Legal at Sony.